I am an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA SIPC. Quick disclosure here, 2 more new long positions added, MMAT, BTCM. Talk about those. No new shorts. Not really the short seller kind of market right now, which we'll talk about. Short squeezes galore. Everywhere you look, everybody's partying with a short squeeze. Maybe not everywhere you look, actually, because I still had some things that I was looking for short squeezes in that did not go. Anyway, let's start with our review of the market, because it's always really important that we're reviewing the market, even though that's not where the action is right now. SPYs, another green day, another all-time high close. What do you say? What do you know? S&P's up 0.25%. Q is down 0.14%. IWM, relative strength again. What is that, like 10 out of 12 days now for the IWM of relative strength? Up 0.7%. It's what I want to see. It's what I've been looking for, and we're finally getting it a bit. I don't really have anything to say about the markets, right? So the S&P is a little bit extended, had a relatively boring day. It's still a little bit extended. Strong rally here into the close, but that's what you would describe this as. Last several days in a row here, just a little bit extended. NASDAQ is where your relative weakness is, if you even want to call it that, because it's also basically at all-time highs and is also slightly extended to the upside. And the IWM is where your continued relative strength has been. Another green day in the IWM. We've got some continuation above this 227.50, which we spoke about in the morning meeting this morning. The ADMA caught up to this pivot low. That pivot low is established. Now, whereas 2 trading sessions ago, I was talking about 225 acting as loose support. That's what I would call loose support. We don't want the IWM to lose that 225 now that the ADMA has caught up to it. So this absolute pivot low here was 224.33, but it's really that 225 is very key right now for this market. Let's see, do I have anything else to talk about? I sure do. Short squeezes. So what I've been talking about with the relative strength in the IWM is, that's what I've been looking for. I got to make my picture bigger, right? Give me 1 second here. So I've been looking for the relative strength in the IWM, and along with that, we're expecting relative strength. It's kind of a weird mix, right? Because we're seeing, along with the movement in the IWM, we're seeing relative strength coming into the stocks that are considered to be the most value type of stocks in the market from like a traditional fundamental perspective, and we're also seeing strength come into like the absolute most speculative stocks, which are some of those, you know, small cap type of names that are really being subject to some major short squeeze action also happening. So on the one hand, you know, you can definitely be looking at like Alcoa tried to give a day 2 today. Someone brought up Alcoa in the morning meeting this morning. I didn't really like the idea of buying it because it's a day 2, and I don't really like buying day 2s. Alcoa tends to not be a momentum stock. I really didn't want to come in and buy it at 46 when the ADMA on the daily is at 44. It's a little bit too extended for me. But we saw some option flow come into it. It gave a nice move, but then obviously had a little bit of weakness into the close. How did energy end up closing? Yeah, energy also is where some value is. Energy's been a little bit weaker than the material names, specifically because of OPEC and the price of oil. But energy waking up a little bit, showing good relative strength. What about like a CLF? Yeah, CLF, it's not a great candle from CLF today. I do like this stock a lot. U.S. Steel also tailed back down. So there's that going on. But the real thing that I've been focusing on right now is short squeezes. I've been looking for short squeezes, and on 2 occasions this week, I was too early by a day, which was brutal. One was this Skills here, bought size on August 30th. Which I guess was Monday, through $11, got stopped out as like a break-even trade. Then it breaks through 11 the next day is when the big squeeze comes in. The day after that, they open it up at 14. We've been talking about this Skills looking similar to, someone remind me again, it starts with an A. not Annie. The one with the similar chart to Skills. Annie's the other short squeeze that I was too early in. One of you guys got it right for me earlier. No. ATER. Thank you. Yeah. So another squeeze candidate higher here that looks similar to how that Skills is building out was this ATER. Squeezed up, gapped up, pulled back, little doji day. Look at Skills. Squeezed up, gapped up, sold it off, little doji day. Let's see if that can turn into some upside continuation like that ATER was trying to do. Now we have a little bit of an inside day there. So I was a day too early in Skills. I was a day too early in ANY. I had a decent position on this ANY. I'd never even heard of this thing. The only reason I bought it yesterday, so another squeeze, BBIG, right? BBIG was just ripping again yesterday, and we saw some option flow come into ANY. So I got into ANY yesterday and ended up with like a break-even trade. I think I literally said in the VTF, and then I think I repeated it in the afternoon meeting yesterday. So I bought this ANY when the option flow came out, basically on this candle. I got my risk covered, and once my risk covered, I literally said a joke that was only a half joke, and I was like, well, I guess I should hold all the rest of my stock to $20 or for a move to $20 because that seems to be the motivation of this market right now. And yeah, it didn't go to $20 today, but it went to 12. The low of the day here is 658. Which is basically the price I exited at into the close yesterday, is the low of the day today. And then off that little pivot low at 658, stock gives almost 100% move up to $12. Again, we're in short squeeze world. This is what I'm looking for right now. There's huge profits to be made if you're able to capture these names when they're going. And unfortunately, I got two stocks here this week where I was just a little bit too early on them. But I'm still kind of going for it. So I got involved in this MMAT today. This is another one where, Pat... so one of the big signals on these short squeezes is the option flow for sure. You see the option flow start to come in, and then the way the market makers are handling those orders is that they're selling it, obviously, but then they need to hedge themselves. So they come in and buy the equity. And their buying of the equity in some of these stocks starts to rip them up. Look at the volume here on this thing. So I got involved in this MMAT in the $5 area today. Same thing. Just is this the next name that can squeeze? And it it's trading at $5.75 right now. So even after the market closed here, it's already ripped up another 40 cents or so, which is good for me. Let's see where this thing can open up tomorrow. But again, the stock just woke up. Big volume day 2 trading sessions ago, where it put in a high of $5.79, made a pivot low off the ADMA inside day yesterday. So it's a decent looking chart pattern to begin with on its daily chart, and then Pat starts posting the option flow into the Pro Desk VTF, and I'm like, all right, let me come in and buy some. I actually almost got stopped out of this. I was just using this bar, the second bar of the day. I was using that as my out, the low of it. So the low here is $4.93. That means that my stop loss goes to $4.92. There is huge volume on that bar, so that's the purpose of using that stop. What's the low of this bar? Low of this bar is $4.93. I didn't get stopped out by a penny. Thank you. And then obviously, it held up pretty well, and now it's ripping here after the close. So we'll see if that one is able to go. And then Pat is like, hey, let me post this like tweet that I saw online or something about some of these stocks that are out there right now that have really expensive borrows. So they're really like a list of 3 stocks that have really expensive borrows right now, and one of those is BTCM, and that's the one that I decided to get involved in. So BTCM, it had already squeezed higher. It had this insane move here up to $14.09. I wasn't involved in that initial move. I was involved in the pullback. So I took 2 trades in this. My first trade was off this pivot low, so I put in a pivot low at $11.57. I think I bought $11.64, so I actually got a really good price on that, and gave a pop up to $12.50 or so. before coming down and then stopping me out. And then after the stop out, I actually decided to stick with it. I took a second trade at $11.36. I added $11.26 and $11.16, and the planned stop loss on that was the low of where it woke up from here initially, which was $10.69. So I was definitely taking on a little bit more risk, but it's the same thing. Looking for these short squeezes in the market, and obviously this has already had a huge move on the day today. But look what this thing did. You know, we talk about the bubble stocks. I talk about these a lot. There's no doubt in my mind that this BTCM was one of the bubble stocks. I remember it back in February. This is absurd. I don't even know what this company does. There's a $2.60 stock, wakes up on volume on this day, and then next thing you know, like 2 months later, it's a $35 stock. I mean, the percentage move on that is absurd. Pulls all the way back to $4. Bases kind of turns around. Does this company do something crypto? It might. I honestly don't even know. Would Pat post this list of, you know, shorted stocks that have really expensive borrows? Actually, I wonder what my borrow cost is on this through our system here. If I did want to borrow it, let's take a look. It's actually not that bad. I know it's a cheap stock, but every $100 is 11 cents. Considering that it's moving dollars at a time, basically, as a $13 stock, it's not terrible. But whatever. Based on that information, based on the price action, I tried it the first time. It was basically a break-even trade. I got stopped out. I tried it the second time. I caught it. I'm just looking for the one that's going to be the next one that does what, you know, BBIG did or does what SPRT did, because the squeezes are coming in. And look, I'm managing my risk. That's really important. I want to throw that out there. I'm not just buying a billion shares or whatever and then just hoping and praying that it goes up a ton. I'm executing responsibly based on technical execution points. I'm covering my risk as fast as I can, because these are, I don't even know what these companies are. BTCM, you tell me, someone tell me you believe in this company, because I have no reason to believe in this company. This is a $2 stock that went to 35 for some reason, because everything was in a massive bubble in the small caps in the beginning of the year. And you know, we're seeing the speculation come back alive. So for me, you know, I liquidated it. I traded it very actively. Oh, I didn't mean to bring it up like that. Here's my executions, right? You can just see, traded it really actively. Here's the first buy that I was kind of telling you about. Booked some profit on the way up. Got stopped out right here, kind of a break-even trade, and then I kind of re-entered it at the price points that I was talking about and traded it, you know, pretty actively here throughout the day. And I kept a small amount of stock. You know, it's my like second or third best name of the day today. So why not? Why not just keep a little bit? You know, even if it gaps down to my out, which is like $10.75. If this has like a $2 gap down, I'm still not losing money in it at this point with the amount of stock that I'm keeping. But if this thing actually goes to $18 tomorrow with again the way this market's moving, then it'll obviously be worth it that I kept some. So it's a win-win situation, keeping some stock. Same thing with that MMAT. You know, we're kind of looking for the squeezes in these speculative names. FUBO giving great continued follow through, and then also just got hit with some news here after hours. This is still the trade-off 28, but in a lot of ways it's the same thing. It's another one of those speculative type of stocks that had a big bubble here earlier this year and also end of last year. Came all the way back down from, you know, January high of $57 down to a low of $14.50. And now it's, you know, created a little bit of support base at 25, and now as things waking up and it's squeezing higher also. So that was just another trade that, you know, you're in a win-win situation after that first day on that break of $28, and then you're looking for the continuation over the course of the next couple of days. That's the motivation of this market right now. It definitely makes for some exciting and sometimes frustrating price action. I think some of you guys know in the morning meeting that I made a keystroke pre-market that was very, very expensive in BBIG. You can, if you look at the pre-market chart in BBIG, you can literally see my executions because they were size, moving the market all the way down, moving the market all the way up, and then moving the market all the way down again, which is just a disaster. But as long as I've been in this business, I still every once in a while press the wrong button. Really what I was trying to do is I was trying to do my research for the morning meeting at the same time as I was trying to scalp size in BBIG, and I tried to type up Signet Jewelers, I think, SIG, that reported earnings to see what the stock was doing based on the earnings report pre-market. Accidentally, liquidated my entire position, rebought my entire position, got stopped out of my entire position. It was just a disaster. And it's not all sunshine and roses. I got in Nikola today. I lost money in Nikola as an actual trade, but it was the same thing. I'm looking at this Nikola, and I think this is such a garbage company. Let me start by saying that. I mean, the CEO is like literally getting arrested for fraud. Like, I've been telling people for a long time. I remember this was a SPAC. This was a SPAC. Wow. So first of all, it's crazy that this is a SPAC and it's actually still trading above $10, now that I really think about it. I forgot that this was a SPAC until right now. This was one of the first SPACs of the SPAC craze. Early last year, because I remember having the SPAC and having size in that SPAC, and then I was out of my entire position for sure by like $15, and I think my price was, I had a really good price in it. I think my price was around $10. It's like, oh, I made $5 in this thing. I'm a genius. And then the Nikola craze came in and it went to $93. And then they were like, all right, it's a fraudulent company, and we made up a bunch of stuff. And then the CEO was like trying to get arrested. But look at, even along the way, even after all that nonsense, look at some of the spikes here that have occurred. And I remember somewhat recently, they actually got a government contract on something, which I thought was really interesting, because I would like to think that the government is smart enough to do enough diligence to not provide a government contract. Sorry, I just changed symbols. To not provide a government contract to a fraudulent company. So I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then this $11, here's a little bit of a level. It had a wake-up day yesterday, and then it had news this morning. I honestly don't remember what the news was. But we like our stocks to be in play, because when stocks are in play, they have higher volume. And I know that we've gotten into this short squeeze type of environment. And I don't know what the short float is on Nikola, but I just got to assume it's decently large, because, I mean, if I was a big short seller, I probably would want to be shorting a fraudulent company too, right? And then this thing just totally failed. They gapped it up pretty big. You can see me buying it early. I got like one or two kicks. Had a nice little double down here, which kind of saved me on some of my risk. And then this became my out, and I caught this little pop, and then I got stopped out of the position. So the short squeezes are definitely not happening all over the place, but we do see them happening in some areas, and pretty significantly when they are happening. So that's some of the stuff I'm looking for. So we're keeping an eye on short floats. We're keeping an eye on option flow, things that can start getting things to squeeze, and the volume when it comes in. And that's the theme of this market right now. And honestly, I love it. It makes for an exciting environment. It is September 2nd, and I'm looking at how much volume I traded today. I traded a lot of volume for me today. I tend to be a decently high volume trader to begin with, I like to think, but today was definitely an outlier day. I did a ton. So that, I think, is all I have to talk about for today. We briefly spoke about the market. Didn't even talk about Apple or any of these other stocks. Apple needs to get above yesterday's high to really prove itself. Diego was saying it's got a 13 DeMark indicator on the daily, weekly, and monthly right now, so that's a little bit scary. Q still needs to be able to get above the shooting star from yesterday, but overall it is still a bull market. So that's all I got, gang, and I am happy to answer any questions. It's almost a long weekend. I think my brain could use it. All right, just going here into the VTF, scrolling up a little bit. What, if any, is the halt risk of short squeeze names? Sure. So Rich, halts happen because of news, or halts also happen because of the uptick downtick rule, or whatever that's called, the limit up, limit down rule. Maybe someone who has taken the Series 57 more recently than I have can remind me the exact details of it. I know it's a percentage move in a period of time. But I actually don't recall what the percentage is and what the period of time is. So once that limit up down trigger hits, or limit up, limit down, uptick, downtick, whatever they call that. Then the stock goes into a halt for 10 minutes, is it? Come on, who just took the Series 57 recently? Help me out with my numbers and my information here. I got 5 different answers from people. Oh, man. All right, give me your answer, and then also tell me what your score was on the Series 57, so I know if you're smart or not. I think it's 5 minutes. But somebody said 15. Someone said 5. Someone said like 15 seconds. It's definitely not 15 seconds. So it's 5 minutes on that first volatility halt, right? And does anyone recall what the percentage it has to move in what period of time in order to trigger that? Because I don't recall. You can actually see it in the level 2 when the stocks are moving fast, at least for guys who are on light speed like me, who have professional accounts here at T3. In the depth of market, you can actually see here LULD, and when the LULD moves away as the stock moves up, right? So if you have a stock that's moving up orderly, then that LULD moves away and moves away and moves away. But if the stock moves very fast, so fast that the price can catch up to the LULD as it's trying to move away, that's what begins to trigger the halt that creates the limit up down thing. So first of all, you got to recognize that when you're trading these crazy stocks, first of all, let me talk about a horror story from my own trading that was from last year in Kodak. I almost lost a boatload of money in Kodak. I hate this stock. Oh man, this thing just, I get the heebie-jeebies just looking at this thing. I almost lost an absolute boatload of stock in Kodak when it was moving on some nonsense. This stock, I don't even understand how like this CEO is not in trouble with the SEC or something. This company, Kodak, right? Kodak Film, seems to do like whatever the cool thing is to do is what they say that they're involved in, right? They say that they're like, now we're a crypto company, and then there was one other one that like created like a big boom in it at one point in time that was just like the latest fad. I can't even get to the top of the chart. This thing went to $60 this day. I can only get my chart to go to 30. That's how insane this move was. Yeah, all the way back here. I think I shorted it at 44. And what happened was, I had my usual Oriel here providing us with some information. The downtick uptick rule was used to restrict the volume of trades on the S&P 500 stocks whenever the New York Stock Exchange Composite Index gained or lost more than 2% from the previous day. I feel like that's I think that's like the circuit breaker rule. And I thought it was 10%. Anyway, we got to fact check all this information. Anyway, so I'm trying to give a warning story here on why you got to be careful on these crazy stocks, and why you especially got to be careful. We got to be careful on both sides of them, honestly. When a stock gets halted, you don't know where it's going to open back up. And the problem with this Kodak, I shorted it at 44. I think the low of the day was 1750. This thing is ripping higher. I might have even started a little bit earlier than that, but things ripping higher. I had a decent amount of size, and I was like just calling BS on whatever the latest thing was that Kodak said that they were doing, because they always say they're doing whatever the latest fad is, and it's always like a pump and dump type thing where it comes back down. So I'm like, short it. Let's just assume it was $44. I don't remember exactly. And it started to move against me really fast, and then it halted before I got stopped out. And then I remember whatever my stop loss price was, it like gapped up to like 50. So I was so out of the money, and then within like literally 5 seconds, it was halted again because of how fast it moved. And it gapped up again, and literally within 5 seconds, it was halted again. And it just kept doing, I think my price was even worse than 44. The price might have been 34. and I think it like ripped to 38, halted, opened at 44, immediately closed again for a halt, opened it at 50, immediately closed again for a halt, opened at 60, immediately closed again for a halt. I was like down a ton of money, and then it opened down again, and it opened down again, and I was like, okay, and I think then I kind of hit out of my position or something like that for still a decent loss, though it was nowhere near what I was down at the most on the highs. And then, of course, it eventually goes all the way back down to $5 where it belongs, because it's a garbage company from the 1980s that I don't even understand how it's listed. But it was like one of the scariest, craziest trades and moments, honestly, of my entire trading career. So we got to be cautious when you're trading these crazy stocks that it can halt, because when it does halt, you never know where it's going to open. I mean, you can get an indication of where it's probably going to open based on an imbalance that comes in, but as it's halting, you don't actually know. And I remember Pat and I actually took advantage of it at one point in GameStop, where GameStop was ripping higher, and we shorted it right as the halt hit, and it opened up down like several dollars in our favor. I think both Pat and I were in the trade, and we covered the position really quick. But that's really dangerous trading. So we do got to be a little worrisome with some of these stocks when they're ripping. Pat, I think even another one of those 3 stocks that was on your list along with BTCM was actually halted when I typed it up. I don't remember. COVID-19 drugs? Oh yeah, so then they got involved in COVID-19 drugs. That's right. First they were like doing cryptocurrency, and then they were like, all right, now we're going to make COVID-19 ingredients for drugs. Like what? Like just unreal. I'm surprised that they're not doing NFTs. At least that might make a little bit of sense, right? Film, pictures, NFTs. Yeah, Eastman Kodak. Just absolutely insane. So anyway, that answers Rich's question on halts and why you want to be careful about them. So let me scroll back up here in the VTF to see what other questions I missed. MRIN, could it be another squeeze? Yeah, for sure. Look at this thing, nuts. I mean, all these types of stocks are on the radar for it. You know, if it did it up to $27, it can do it again. I mean, even if you want to look at GameStop, right, which has been squeezing higher. I'm surprised GameStop hasn't done it more. But this had 2 trips. You know, it had its first big trip, then it had a second, really 3 trips. First big trip all the way down to $40. Second big trip all the way back down to $138. Third big trip came back down to, you know, $140 or so again, and now it's been trying to work its way back up. So some of these names can have, you know, multiple squeezes, multiple trips higher. This MRIN, which is another insane one. So these are all the types of stocks we want to pay attention to. And again, they're not going to be working across the board. Like I tried to get Nikola today because I thought it could be a stock, and it's my second worst name of the day today after that BBIG, which was just a disaster keystroke. But for sure, keep an eye on all this stuff. Keep an eye on the volume that's coming in. Yeah, Varun, I think that's only on the overnight, on the cost to borrow. So I think it's only you pay a locate fee if you're trading an intraday. You don't pay another locate fee on the stock that you kept overnight, but then you pay the borrow interest. And the borrow interest can sometimes be significant. Usually I think it's around 2 to 3% annualized for typical stocks that are hard to borrow, but every once in a while on one of these crazy stocks it can be somewhat significant. BTCM is a Chinese crypto mining stock? That's what I'm in? That's so scary. China doesn't allow you to mine crypto anymore. I know people who are doing it there, and they were like, hey, the government said I can't do this anymore. As a matter of fact, one of my friends who is a big crypto guy who lives in China, he went to the bank one day, one of his banks, I think the construction bank in Shanghai, where he had a bank account. And he went there one day to do normal banking, and the bank basically said, oh, hi, we are no longer going to be working with you because we know that you've been taking a lot of deposits and withdrawals that were related to cryptocurrency. So they just like gave him like a huge like thing of cash that was all of the money in his bank account, and they said, thank you, have a nice day, like don't come back. and I'm long a Chinese crypto mining company for a short squeeze. Okay, why not? Absolutely ridiculous. Scrolling down here in the VTF, looking for questions. Yeah, COVID ingredients for Trump and Kodak. I think Kodak did a crypto thing at one point also. They had a squeeze, I think, before COVID. That was because, yeah, back here. You see this squeeze in beginning of 2018? You guys remember when crypto was the rage for a while in 2018, and then it died out, and then obviously it's back again now? This was when Kodak said that they're going to start doing crypto, and this is when Kodak said that they're going to start doing ingredients for COVID. What a joke. Like, how come the SEC is not investigating this? I want to know what Kodak has done post their announcement to get involved in crypto 3 years ago. Because if they actually did it, it probably would be a $50 stock, right? Anyway, I'm all fired up today. Next from Sebastian. If you're looking at a big resistance level to trade the breakout, and when you wake tip, you see it breaking in pre-market with low volume, or when you wake up, and you see it trading with low volume, do you still trade or you wait for the open? It depends a little bit, Sebastian. I prefer to wait for the open in those cases. Sometimes what I'll do is I will buy a little bit of a pre-market feeler, but I am also paying attention to the volume and I'm paying attention to the spread. If it's not trading at all, and then you're pretty much probably entirely best off waiting for the open. If it's trading a little bit and it's up, then I might start with a feeler. The closer it gets to 9:30, the more likely I am to be heavier pre-market than not. So, like, with our trading accounts, we have market access from 4 a.m. Eastern Time to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, it's very little volume in almost anything, even like the SPYs and the Qs. So I'm not getting heavy at stuff that early. But the closer you get to 9:30, the more that volume tends to pick up, the more comfortable you can feel that you just didn't get suckered into something really, really early pre-market. And again, you got to pay attention to the spreads. If it's got an insane spread pre-market compared to how it's going to trade, then I definitely just want to wait. Yeah, Gabriel, you should be scared to short crazy meme names. So I am now very nicely profitable short AMC since this happened, but on the first squeeze day I was short and it gapped up the next morning, even though you can't see that. Pre-market it was up, and my pre-market P&L combined with this move up I was down 6 figures in AMC in a day and a morning. And then by the end of this day, I was actually positive in it. And now I'm nicely positive in AMC because I've traded it really well since then off the 60 area and the breakdown of this wedge. But you gotta be very, very, very cautious on trading meme stocks and short squeeze stocks short. Very, very, very cautious. That's what we learned. Scrolling down here. Kodak is a multifunctional company. Man, you guys got jokes today. Rizwan providing us some information here. 10% change in the value of a security if it's a member of the S&P within a 5-minute time frame. Got it. That makes sense to me. The champ versus trading demons. I don't want that to be a thing. Though I am wearing a Mr. Pickles t-shirt today. I don't know if anybody knows the Mr. Pickles reference. It's my wife is in ad sales for Warner Media, basically, which was Time Warner, and then it was AT&T, and now it's having the merger with Discovery. But she specifically does ad sales for Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. So I get a lot of decent like Adult Swim swag, Rick and Morty swag, and if anybody, I'm not a big cartoon watcher, but I do like Rick and Morty. This shirt is from the cartoon Mr. Pickles, which is about a dog that's possessed by the devil. So I guess it was fitting that I battled some trading demons today. So he provided us with a YouTube video. This is actually me. This is actually one of my fights. This is when I was an amateur fighter. I started this round with a flying sidekick, and that was pretty much it. Thanks for posting that. Thanks for posting that, Rich. Anyway, scrolling down here from Gabriel. Do I get locked out if I'm holding a swing position that I am decently in the money, but one day it gaps down, but that I am decently in the money with? Yes. So professional trading accounts at T3 Trading Group and retail accounts at T3 Trading Group have mark-to-market accounting. So what that means is you might be a ton in the money on a position, but the next day your front-end system is going to mark your price in the front-end system as to the previous day's close. And then it's rectified in the account reporting system that we have, which is called prop reports. So that means that in theory, on a swing position, you could be getting locked out of your system, or it could show you being down a lot of money because the stock is down one day, even though you're actually still in the money on it. When that happens, just send me or send your Class B member an email, and we can get your lockout bumped up for the day, usually within 5 minutes or so. We don't want traders who are in the money to be getting restricted by risk settings because of that. So we're happy to give you a shout out for it. BTCM also has a mobile app for pro sports info and prediction engine AI for sports gamblers. Okay, I don't know if sports gambling is legal in China or not, but I guess that's better than just being a crypto mining company, and then not being able to mine crypto because you're in China. Thanks for that information. Yeah, Robert, that was me back in the day. I'm a retired old man now. Thoughts on Coin and Riot? Sure. So the first thing I always want to say about Coin, it's like a qualitative fundamental thing. I think you can be bullish on crypto and bearish on Coinbase because it's a broker. I think that if you're bullish on crypto, you're probably better off in a Riot or a Mara that are crypto mining companies than you are in Coin. Coin is a brokerage. That's like saying I want to be long Schwab because I think Apple's going up. It doesn't make any sense. But for the time being, at least, we do see a trading correlation between Coinbase and crypto. I don't like trading Coin. I am bearish on it from a fundamental perspective. There has been some good long trades on it, on some resistance breaks on over the course of the last month or so. I haven't been involved in any of them. I think the only time in my career that I've traded Coin was when I shorted it on the IPO at like $400. High was $429. I remember being out of the money on it, and I liquidated my entire position by like $345, I think, or maybe $340, and made like $55-$60 on the short and thought I was a genius. And then of course, like 2 weeks later it's at $250. I don't like Coinbase. I'll tell you why. I think that the crypto brokerages are going to be in a race for the bottom in the same way that we saw equity market brokerages go for a race to the bottom. If anyone has a Coinbase account, I have a Coinbase account, and you purchase anything, the commissions are absurd. They're so ridiculously high. I don't think it's possible in the long run for Coinbase to maintain that because there's going to be other competitors that pop up, and then it's going to be a race to the bottom on commission costs, just like what we saw in the brokerage. So the brokerage industry. So that makes me kind of fundamentally bearish on Coinbase. Technically, it doesn't look bad right now. Technically, it got back above this kind of key 360 level in a decent way yesterday with an inside day and up. Today was a little bit of a weaker day, but it's kind of a rest day in extended territory. So the technicals on Coinbase, the chart here, actually looks pretty good. So if you have a position, stick with it. Stick with your game plan because the technicals kind of look like higher. But from a fundamental perspective, I really don't like the company. I don't want anything to do with it. Riot, I don't know anything about the fundamentals of Riot. Colin over here was telling me that Riot's got better fundamentals than Mara, but Mara's been the one that's been relatively strong recently. The important spot in Riot right now is $38 on a closing basis. I want to see Riot breaking $38 with volume, and then maybe I'll get involved in it for a trade. Today's candle was not great, honestly, especially considering how strong most things are. So I don't think you want to be involved in this right now until and unless it starts clearing 38, especially after kind of today's weakness. I know, I guess it's still above 36, but if it starts really getting below and holding below 36, you might have a problem in it. Man, my phone's just been blowing up. Mike here, since most of these intraday short squeezes are not in our plan, do you recommend new traders just ignore it because we can develop bad habits even if they work? It's a good question, Mike. It's a good question. Pat just posting, just to follow up on the Riot question real quick. Pat here is letting me know in the virtual trading floor that Riot got a lot of bull flow today. So at 12:01 had bullish action, pretty sizable 37 sweep calls, and then again at 2:24, pretty sizable for 37 calls. So maybe given that extra piece of information that Pat just posted, you want to give Riot a little bit more of a chance. Anyway, going back to Mike's question, since most of the intraday short squeezes are not in our game plan, do you recommend that new traders just ignore them? Because we could develop bad habits even if they work. It's a really hard question to answer, Mike. Some of these short squeezes we are able to potentially identify pre-market. That's the first thing I would say, because we identify levels that if they get triggered can trigger the short squeeze. For example, skills, we identified $11. I literally was saying 2 trading sessions ago when I bought it through 11 and then got stopped out, 3 trading sessions ago, that if skills can break through 11, maybe it leads to a short squeeze. With FUBO, it was the same thing. This thing starts getting above 28, maybe this thing starts really squeezing higher. So some of those you can actually have pre-market game plans for. Some of the other ones are just really waking up during the day. And the way that I'm kind of trading those ones during the day are the same way in which I trade news. So if you know how I trade news and you have rules for it, then maybe you could do it. Trading news can be really crazy, and it's really important that you get good pricing. If you're too late, which means bad pricing, you're better off not being involved in it at all. So I would say, if you've never really traded news, then, like intraday news when it just comes out and you see the stock explode, if you've never really done it, the way to start to learn is by doing it really small. Doing it really small and ideally in cheaper price things. This BTCM is cheaper priced. So, look, don't get me wrong. You can do a lot of damage to yourself in this BTCM, especially if you're heavy, but it's only a $12 stock. If you're taking a few hundred shares here because you're learning, it's going to be hard to hurt yourself too bad. As opposed to if you're trading a news name that's squeezing higher, that's a $70 stock, you could do a lot of damage to yourself really fast, especially if you're on a professional T3 account with all the capital access that T3 provides to its traders. Thanks, I'm so done. Hope that answers your question there, Mike. Oriel, the coin got destroyed that day. New York has all these crazy rules on crypto trading. It's ridiculous. Yeah, my trading room, Brian, is open all day. It's called the Pro Desk. It's the Pro Desk virtual trading floor. I'm not speaking into it all day, but I speak into it for at least usually the first hour of the day, and then usually Patrick or I come into the afternoon to be speaking, and I'm sharing my screen at the beginning of the day. It's also where we do our morning meeting every day. We get all our research. We get the news posted in there. We get the option flow posted in there. So it's a pretty dynamite room with a dynamite community at this point. It's primarily composed of professional traders. And even when I'm not speaking into the radio, I'm usually available in the chat functionality, and the traders are there in the chat functionality posting ideas all day. So definitely check it out. Reach out to info@t3live.com. info@t3live.com to ask for it. Next question, do you pay attention to the VWAP? I don't have VWAP on any of my charts. I never have in my entire career. If someone mentions it, oh, the stock is approaching the VWAP, sometimes I'll ask, okay, well, where is the VWAP? And I'll take that as additional information. The VWAP can be a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy type of thing, the same way that moving averages can be if there's an algorithm that's designed to buy or sell at it all day, in which case it can be important potentially to pay attention to it. But really, VWAP I think is more important for fund execution traders than it actually is for traders who are proprietary traders or retail traders trying to make a living from trading. Because the way that performance is measured for execution traders at funds is usually versus the VWAP. So if they say, hey, we need you to buy 1 million shares of XYZ stock today, at the end of the day, if you bought that 1 million shares below the day's VWAP as an average price, it means that you did a good job. And if you bought it above the average price, it means that you did a bad job. So it's one of the ways where they really measure execution traders. So I don't look at it personally, but I know a bunch of guys here in the room, have it built into their charts. Billionaire Lifestyle. Who is the dude behind you on the non-virtual trading floor? That's Colin. Colin O'Rourke. Can you? Yeah, there he is saying hello.
What's up, guys?
We usually got Patrick here too. Patrick is usually sitting over there, but he's up in Massachusetts, I think, for the holiday weekend, and we usually got Josh Leffler down at the end of the row. He's the rather large man who I don't think is listening to this meeting today because he is on vacation this week, who oftentimes walks behind me for extra exercise. But all great guys. All great guys. Is the room similar to Melnick's room in T3? I mean, it's constructed the same, but the focus is a good bit different. Mark's a great guy. I know him personally, but we have very different approaches to the market, and you're not saying anything bad about him at all. But his room is very retail trader focused. My room is actually composed almost entirely of professional traders who are at T3 Trading Group, so it creates I think we have a really professional environment here, which is awesome. So definitely a bit of a different vibe, but you got to see what's right for you. So maybe you want to check his space out, maybe you want to check my space out. I'm biased. I think I know you're where you want to be, but I'm obviously biased in my statement of that. Yeah, Mark does a lot of option scalping, and he's in a retail account himself, whereas I'm in a professional account. All right, gang, it's 5 o'clock. We're approaching the holiday weekend. I can't believe how much volume I traded on the... Is it Thursday today? It is Thursday, right? I can't believe how much volume I traded today on the Thursday before the holiday weekend. This is usually like one of the slowest times of the year. I traded a boatload of volume. I'm actually usually on vacation this week. But I'm here, I'm pressing lots of buttons, and this market's been exciting. So I'll see everybody tomorrow morning, where we will do all our usual stuff. We will assess the market, come up with a game plan, come up with stocks to focus on. Again, if you're just checking us out on YouTube, reach out to the T3 Live community, info@t3live.com. Ask about getting involved in ProDesk. And if you want to become a professional trader with T3, it's a great first step. Start by just getting to know the community of professional traders that we have here, and then eventually you can speak to me or one of the other guys on the team here about potentially becoming a professional trader if that's what you want to do. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.